As the high school football season rolls on, we've got you covered. This is Next Round Preps on the Double Down Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to week 9 of the high school football season right here on Next Round Preps. John Lunceford, Jerry Young, and Jerry. We are heading to the game we've had circled all season with Thompson and Hoover, but so many games last week and this week. I mean, this is when it gets fun right here at the end of the season.
It's my favorite time of the year. I like this really more than playoffs, although, playoffs are win or go home. So, I think there's some interesting games coming up this week. But before we get into football, John, I know that, this is the Halloween season, right?
It is.
And so people that follow you on social media have seen some pictures over the last year or two with you celebrating Halloween. So I was just wondering, are we going to dress up next week? Or
I mean, if you really want to dress up next week, we can.
I don't. I was just wondering if you are.
I don't want to. My wife is obsessed with Halloween. Me, not so much, but that has gotten me into Halloween. But, you can drop by my house. I got a big, 15-foot skeleton outside, tombstones all over the grass. But, no, I'm good not dressing up unless you just want to put like a Michael Myers mask on and do the whole thing wearing a mask.
I mean, the reason I said dress up because I've seen you in 15 or 20 different outfits this time of year.
My wife loves doing that. We dress up. We do couples outfits all throughout Halloween. But, the things you do for love, I'll dress up. But, no, for high school football, I'm all about keeping it serious. We got to keep it serious here and focus because October is such a great month. People like it because of Halloween. They like it because the weather's cooling off. That's part of why I like it as well. But most people around these parts like it because of football. College football, crazy weekend that just happened in college football with Alabama losing. Could it be even crazier this week with some of the top teams losing? Who knows? We'll see. But we'll preview that coming up here in a second. Last week, Alabama-Tennessee wasn't the only upset. A few upsets happened last week in high school football, and we'll get to some of those in the upper classifications. But in the lower classifications, let's start in Class 5A. Faith Academy Williamson is one of those games I had out there. Faith Academy, they won 26-0, easy enough. With that, Faith Academy had set up a region title game against UMS Wright this week. That should be pretty interesting. UMS Wright, of course, top team down there. They always have been. And then the game we were probably looking forward to, I guess, second, maybe behind Auburn and Central Phoenix City, was Leeds and Moody. Leeds, a 1-point win, 14-13 over Moody. They hand Moody their first loss of the season.
I really feel bad that I didn't look this up, but did Moody miss the extra point or did they go for 2?
They missed the extra point,
okay,
I believe.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it was tough way to lose, but a close game there. I believe Leeds was up 14-0, and they came back and scored a couple of touchdowns there to bring it to that point. But, losing by 1 because of that miss, and tough loss for Moody. But you know what? They beat Southside this week. They're still the 2nd seed, and I believe they probably will beat Southside. We'll talk about that in a second. But, still a phenomenal job by Jake Gannis there in his first season at Moody. Sign of things to come. Any other games before we jump into 6A that you want to talk about in the lower classifications?
No, that's about it. I had some 6A games marked, but that's all in the lower class.
Let's just say that there were some games as I was working on my bracketology this weekend, which, by the way, bracketology 1A through 7A, all available, alpreps.com. Some of those smaller classification regions, they are a nightmare. There's one region that has a very, very strong chance of going to the old flip of a coin at the end of it all, because every tiebreaker as you go through, they're all tied. 3 teams are tied. Kind of depends what happens, and I got all kind of questions this weekend. And look, I don't get everything right trying to break down all the numbers. There's a ton of numbers coming at me, but there's some tiebreakers where this is the interesting thing as we talk about tiebreakers and everything, and you can read more of this at alpreps.com, but tiebreakers in the AHSAA don't go on just who's won the most games or not. It goes on the quality of those wins based on the amount of wins the teams you beat had. And I know that sounds confusing, but I had somebody reach out this weekend, and all I can say is, look, I don't make the rules. I just tell you how it's going to play out. But there's one scenario where a team is in danger of missing, depending on what happens in non-region play the next couple of weeks. A team is in danger of missing because they beat 2 3A teams who are going to make it's a 2A team. They beat 2 3A teams who are going to make the playoffs. The team who's probably going to get in ahead of them beat 2 1A teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, but the 1A teams had more wins combined than the 3A teams did. It's strictly based on wins. And they're like, well, how does that seem fair? Well, you got to break the tie somehow. That's how the AHSAA decided to break it. So you can go see all that at alpreps.com. I know it can get confusing sometimes. 7A is actually one of the most confusing classifications, believe it or not. Region 3 is easy. We know what's going to happen there. It's Thompson Hoover playing, and then County and Vestavia playing for the final spot. But regions 1, 2, and 4 are all over the place. We'll get to that and how that got to that point here in a second. But yeah, all the bracketology there, 1A through 7A, alpreps.com. As we move on to Class 6A, McGill-Tulin, a team down in Region 1, they are fighting for a playoff spot. They fall to Theodore 27-10, a 17-point win there for Theodore, setting up Theodore and Sarah Lynn this week. McGill-Tulin, 3 straight Super 7 appearances. Then they started dropping down to 6A, and it's a tough region down there in Region 1. Sidney Lanier falls to Carver, setting up a matchup between Carver and Pike Road this week for a region title. Ben Russell and Briarwood.
Wow.
This game right here, Ben Russell, 16-14. Briarwood, they just love to have those heart attack kind of games.
Yeah, I know, and every game they played this year has been close, but I really expected Briarwood to rise to the top in that ball game. I know they had to travel down 280, not a long trip down to Alexander City, but Ben Russell's a great place to play a football game if you've never been in that stadium. You can even walk into the stadium as part of the park down there of the Russell sports complex or whatever. So, but I really expected Briarwood to come through. That loss to me kind of put a stamp on Briarwood's season.
It did. Briarwood officially out of the playoffs. They're heading into a rivalry game against Homewood this week that back when I was playing, and this is 20 years ago, I know, but Homewood Briarwood played that last week of the season playing for the region title. They're going to play Homewood this week. Homewood already wrapped up the region title. Briarwood already out of the playoffs completely because of that loss to Benjamin Russell. Now Benjamin Russell has put themselves in a position, depending on what happens, because Helena also lost to Calera 52-51. And what was it, 4 overtimes?
Yeah, 4 overtimes.
That game was wild. And now Helena, who, and this was my mistake, I already had Helena marked in the playoffs. They technically can miss the playoffs because of that loss to Calera, depending on what happens this week with Pelham as well. Pelham falling to Homewood last week, 28-0 for Homewood to wrap that up. But, I mean, that region is all over the place between Homewood and Briarwood, but you never would have thought that Briarwood would just be completely out of the conversation when we're talking about all these other teams now potentially making it. I mean, Calera, close game in overtime. Benjamin Russell, close game. Pelham, I think that was a 1-point game. I mean, they have played close game after close game after close game, but this week it's not going to matter.
No, and I noticed on your brackets you got St. Paul's penciled in against Carver Montgomery. You've got Northridge playing Helena, which is the line I was looking for. But you're right, Helena now could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, depending on how all that plays out, as I'll pull up my old 6A bracketology up here. So here's the scenario for Helena in Region 3. So I had them already marked in the playoffs, but I had to pull that out. Ben Russell is locked in the playoffs with that win. It just depends, could they be 2, 3, or 4 when it comes to seeding. So Ben Russell's at Helena this week. Pelham is at Chilton County. Briarwood's at Homewood. Homewood doesn't affect the region standings. Calera right now is 3-3. They're waiting to see what happens. I have them out right now only because they technically have they're technically a half game behind everybody. But Helena, Pelham, Ben Russell all tied at 3-2. If Pelham and Benjamin Russell win, which means Benjamin Russell goes to Helena and beats Helena. Pelham, they beat Chilton County, who hasn't won a game in region play so far. Pelham will be 4-2, and they'll get in with the win over Benjamin Russell that they have. Ben Russell will be 3rd at 4-2, and then Calera will be 4th because there will be a 2-way tie, 3-3, Calera and Helena, and Helena will fall out. So that's the way Helena can potentially miss the playoffs. However, it basically comes down to Helena and Benjamin Russell who wins. Should Helena win, Helena will be the 2 seed. So if Pelham wins over Chilton County, which should happen, Helena will either be the 2 seed or out, depending on if they win or lose this game.
That's wild.
That is wild.
That's somebody. It's like, well, you either, you get home field advantage or you go home. That's crazy.
And I would have said coming into the season, Helena probably would have been the favorite with maybe Homewood in there as well. And I know a lot of people expected a lot more out of Christopher Vazina there helming that Briarwood offense. But yeah, it's wild to think that now Helena has gone to where if they're second, I'll say, well, that's about what I expected, top 2. but they could potentially miss. That's how wild that region has been. Region 4, you mentioned Northridge is a team I had in there playing them. Northridge, they fall to Hueytown 41-23, not quite the 75 points or whatever Hueytown did the week before that in that one, but Hueytown now is basically in that second spot. Hillcrest, they play McAdory coming up this week. McAdory beat Brookwood 56-0.
Never would have thought that.
I mean, Brookwood's been good this year. Don't get me wrong. Brookwood and Tuscaloosa County are kind of in the same boat. A lot better. Ultimately, probably going to end up missing the playoffs. County's playing for a playoff spot this week, but we saw County last week against Thompson. They're good, a lot better than where they have been. Haven't quite gotten to being that playoff caliber team yet. Brookwood, they fall to 4-4 in the season, 2-4 in region play, and they will officially, miss the playoffs. Moving up to Region 6, Pinson Valley and Shades Valley. Pinson Valley beats them 23-6. Pinson Valley will move on. Shades Valley pretty much out of it now. And Clay Chaltville, a little bit of a close game. We saw Clay Chaltville against Thompson. We talked about how they had a close game against Pinson, but 25-20 they beat Oxford.
Yeah, Oxford actually had a chance to win this game. They were, of course, obviously with only a 5-point game, but I expected Clay Chaltville to really be in the 40s scoring. So, is there a problem there? That's, Oxford, a strong team, not near as strong as they have been, though.
Yeah, Oxford and Centerpoint this week should be a good game there. Centerpoint trying to get the second seed. Clay Chaltville, no surprise that they are going to be the top team there in that region, and we'll see what they can do when it comes to the playoffs, including against teams like Mountain Brook and Gardendale, who play this week as well. Up north, we had Region 7 get decided. Hartselle, they beat Decatur 41-14. Muscle Shoals, they beat Coleman 23-16, so that region is now set with Hartselle and Muscle Shoals as the top two teams. Hartselle unbeaten on the season, 9-0, one of the only unbeatens outside, I think, Region 1 that has counting non-region games with Theodore and Saraland. The winner of that game this week will be unbeaten as well. But Hartselle's had a real strong season up there. Region 8, not a lot of games there because Gaston City has already locked up that playoff spot, and that region is pretty much already set. Moving on to Class 7A. Biggest game of the week, Auburn and Central Phoenix City. We knew coming in it was going to be a battle. Auburn, the favorite in this one because they're unbeaten. They beat Hoover earlier in the season. Central Phoenix City beat Hewitt-Trussville, but I think people would give a little more credence to that Auburn win. But Auburn falls to Central Phoenix City 38-17.
Never would have thought the score. I thought it would have been a 1 or 2 point game. I don't even remember what the spread was on it now, but it was real close. I know you had done, but still.
I had Central favored by 5 points.
5 points.
Well, there's a lot more than that.
That's right. So 11-point win there for them. No, 17. No, more than that.
21,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, 21-point win. So, yeah, I got a feeling, though, I don't know, but I know Keith Etheridge, and I know he learned a lot from that game, win or lose. It's kind of like we know that Thompson learned a lot playing earlier in the year. So I just know that he'll tuck that away. You expect these two teams to meet again.
Yeah, they're two good teams. And, look, from the beginning of the season, if you said who's going to be the Final Four in 7A, I'd have said Thompson Hoover in the north and Central Auburn in the south. Top two teams from Region 2 and Region 3. And I still, for the most part, expect that. I mean, I think some teams from the south from the Mobile region, maybe can have an upset here or there. I don't know that anybody from Region 4 can really upset anybody from the top two, even Hewitt-Trussville, maybe even Vestavia or County. But, Auburn, Central Phoenix City, looking forward to what is most likely going to be that rematch. But Opelika, a team that has beaten Central Phoenix City, that's their one region loss so far in the year. Both Central and Auburn are at 6-1, or Central 6-1, Auburn's 5-1, but that's the one loss for Central Phoenix City. Was to Opelika. They lose to Enterprise 22-14. Now Enterprise is all of a sudden in the conversation there. You have 6 teams right now fighting for playoff spot. That is a 9-team region, so it's going to go to the final week. But you have 6 teams now fighting for 4 spots, and nothing is locked up right now other than Auburn and Central are going to make the playoffs in some way. But a little surprising to see Enterprise beat Opelika.
I agree with you. And, you were just talking about who's going to make it in that division. Prattville's name is still in there. They could actually win this week and put themselves in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Prattville in there. Dothan, the other team. Dothan for a while there was looking as a easy top 4 team, especially when they beat Prattville early on. Prattville, don't forget, they lost to Smith Station and Dothan to start things off, and it's like, maybe Dothan's in there. Dothan is now kind of fallen out of the conversation. Still alive, though, in that region. Up in Region 4, you had Austin take down Bob Jones by 2. 28-26, close game there. All 6 of these teams have been really close, even though Austin and Florence have kind of risen above the other two, and they've locked in their spot as the top 2 teams. Austin, a close win over Bob Jones. Spartanman all over Huntsville, 55-14 in that one. So that region is once again a mess. There's a lot of teams. There's actually a chance for there's a 4-way tie right now, and there's a chance the 4-way tie stays going into that last week of non-region play there. So, when I've tried to break down who Thompson could potentially play, as we've looked at the Thompson games we do, I can't tell you who they're going to play because that region is all over the place. As of now, the 2 Madison teams seem to be the favorite, Bob Jones and James Clemens, because they play the 2 bottom teams in the region, but that region's all over the place. I don't know who they're going to play.
I don't either. Of course, James Clemens with the new coach this year is Wade Waltrip now is at Hoover to take Josh Niblett's place. So, and Hoover with a big win over Chelsea, 38-0, which everybody expected. And then a game, John, that we talked about a lot, Vestavia Hills at Oak Mountain. Thought that game would be a little closer, but Vestavia with a 42-21 win.
Yeah, Oak Mountain struggled this season. They are still winless. They take on Spain Park to see if they can get a win on the season this week. One game down south in the Mobile region, just to mention real quick, Mary Montgomery beat Daphne 14-9. Mary Montgomery now firmly in the playoff conversation down there in Region 1. Daphne went from first to out in a couple of weeks, and Foley looking like the favorite right now. Foley and Fairhope looking like the top 2 teams, but big win there for Mary Montgomery. Hewitt-Trussville, they beat Spain Park 35-10. And then, of course, the game we were at, Thompson, no contest really. It was 42-0, I believe, at halftime, 49-7 the final score, setting up that Thompson-Hoover game coming up next week.
Thompson had a complete game. I talked to Coach Mark Freeman yesterday, and he agreed with me. He said that's the first game they've had that complete, total offense, defense came together. And, of course, it was against Tuscaloosa County, but when Thompson is playing at their best, this is the kind of numbers they can put up against really a lot of people in the state, most anybody.
Yeah, Hoover in that Tuscaloosa County game 2 weeks ago struggled in the first half. It was 7-6 Hoover at halftime. They pulled away late. I think it was 31-13 was the final score. But, Thompson finding their stride here late in the season, it's a dangerous thing, especially when teams like Auburn are losing, when it looked like they were by far the top team in 7A after beating Hoover and running the table to that point. And then Hoover kind of getting a tune-up last week as well against Chelsea. But, like you mentioned, 38-0. So Thompson-Hoover, the big game we're looking forward to coming up this week. There's a lot of games and a lot of playoff spots to lock up this week. For the most part, everything will be decided this week. This is the last region week for most teams. If you're in a 9-team region, it'll keep going. Some of that's already going to be locked up. Like there's a chance with that region 2 that some more things will be locked up and a little clearer depending on results and what all happens. But it's going to be a wild week coming up, and guess what? We'll have it all for you when we get back right here on Next Round Preps.
At Albritton and Artavino Family Dentistry, we know how valuable your time is. So if it's a crown you need, let us take care of it with our same-day crown service. We have the latest technology allowing us to build your custom crown right here in our office while you wait. Albritton and Artavino Family Dentistry is here to serve you.
Albritton and Artavino are easy to find. Exit 238, that's the Alabaster exit, next door to American Family Care, or call them at 205-664-7610.
Alabaster Living has been a major community supporter for years in the Alabaster area and is excited to introduce their new streaming TV channel. Alabaster Living Television can be found on Roku and Fire Stick and has new video content featuring Thompson High School, the city of Alabaster, local churches, businesses, and citizens added weekly. Just load ALTV to your streaming device and start watching to see all that Alabaster has to offer. You can also follow Alabaster Living on Facebook and YouTube to stay on top of everything going on in the community. Add ALTV to your Roku or Fire Stick device today.
Hi, I'm Jerry Young. I want to tell you about Holloway Home Loans here in Central Alabama. Thomas Holloway is a former Oak Mountain Eagle who moved on to play his college ball and earn his degree from West Point. Thomas is still an Army reservist and an expert in residential home mortgages, offering personalized service at an amazing price because he works for you and not the financial institutions. Call Thomas today at 205-413-2858, or you can email him, thomas@hollowayhomeloans.com. That's Holloway Home Loans and Edge Home Financing, MLS 1985757.
Cartridge World of Vestavia is well known for the lowest prices on toner cartridges, but are you aware of their free printer program? You heard right, there's no catch. Simply agree to buy your ongoing printer cartridges from Cartridge World of Vestavia, and we'll provide you with a printer at no cost. A Cartridge World expert will personally consult with you to find out your business's exact needs so you can have a stronger bottom line. Visit Cartridge World of Vestavia Hills on the web or call 205-822-6767. That's Cartridge World of Vestavia. Welcome back into Next Round Preps. We are in officially week 9, which is the 10th week of the football season. So because of that, a lot of teams are finishing their season this week, as is the case with Thompson and Hoover. The game we'll be calling, that'll be the final game of the season for them. The regular season playoffs will start in 2 weeks for them. A lot of teams decided to take that week 10 off. Some decided to play it. For a while there, it actually was a trend. I don't know if you knew this, but it was a trend. The teams that took the last week off lost a lot early in the playoffs early on, but that's kind of changed, especially with the way Thompson and Hoover have been scheduling, because Thompson and Hoover are the two that make it to the the semifinals there in the North, and Thompson has won 3 in a row. But let's drop down to 5A to start things off. A couple of big matchups down in Class 5A that I wanted to bring up. Faith Academy, they are at UMS Wright. Faith Academy getting the win last week over Williamson to put them at 5-1 in region play. UMS Wright 6-0 in region play. A win for Faith Academy will not guarantee them the region title. It will guarantee UMS Wright. But if Gulf Shores beats Viger, another important game, because that'll end Viger at 4-4 in region play, and they will be in danger of missing the playoffs. But Gulf Shores can be in the region title conversation if Faith Academy were to win.
I like Gulf Shores in that game. I really do. I think they're playing their best ball of the year, and they picked the right time to do it. I just think Gulf Shores is going to be somebody to reckon with.
I think Gulf Shores wins too. My little formula spit out Viger a few-point favorite, and it spit out UMS Wright in Faith Academy at a pick-em, because Faith Academy is a good team, don't get me wrong, but UMS Wright has been killer so far this season, as they are every season, but should be a good couple of games down there in 5A Region 1 down in the Gulf to keep an eye on. Up in Region 5, interesting game there behind Ramsey in Region 5, Pleasant Grove and Jasper playing for second place in that one. Jasper at home, they're 5-1. Pleasant Grove is 5-1 in region play. I got Pleasant Grove as about a 2.5 touchdown favorite in this one. They've been a good, solid team, but a lot of credit to Jasper. They've dropped down to 5A and made the most of it.
Yeah, Jasper, I'd have them at least a couple of touchdowns underdog, but I like Pleasant Grove in this. Pleasant Grove traditionally over the last few years has made it deep into the playoffs, of course, and so I just like Pleasant Grove against Jasper.
Jasper, if they lose, will still be the 3rd seed there. Hayden and Fairfield playing for 4th in that region as well. Up in Region 6, we mentioned Moody falling by 1 point to Leeds, 14-13. They take on Southside Gadsden. Southside's 3-2, Moody's 4-1. If Moody wins, they are second. If Moody falls, there's going to be a 3-way tie for second place right there. I like Moody. I got them about 10-point favorite in this one.
I do too, and I was going to say that's a closer game than a lot of people think. You think Southside Gadsden, no way they can beat Moody this year, but I'm going to tell you, you're right. About a touchdown difference in those two teams, so Moody's going to have to play a good ball game.
Yeah, no doubt. And Southside, one of those 6A teams that's dropped down in the last few years. So looking to get a big win there and potentially try to get up to second place with a win. And then a region title game, a team we always talk about when it comes to the playoffs, but they've been running over their region, as has Fairview. But Russellville, 5-0. Fairview, 5-0. This game at Fairview, I have Russellville as a 1-point favorite. So pretty close game there. Like I said, region title game, loser is second up there in 5A Region 8. Let's move on to Class 6A. In 6A Region 1, the game we've all been waiting for down there, Saraland at Theodore. Both teams 8-0 on the season, 6-0 in region play. Winners first, losers second. Pretty simple down there because they have dominated everybody else. Theodore I have as a 5-point favorite in this one, and I probably agree. I like Saraland, but I think Theodore can pull out the win.
I do too. I would have them a little closer than 5 points. I seriously think that's a coin toss. But I do like Theodore in this ballgame.
I don't really think anybody in 6A in the South, outside of maybe Hillcrest, maybe Hueytown, can take either one of these teams down. I mean, that's going to be a good, strong region from top to bottom in the playoffs, but don't know that Homewood, being the top team out of Region 3, can take them down. Don't know if Pike Road, Carver Montgomery, whoever wins that game, can take them down. But really strong showing from Saraland and Theodore. Meanwhile, McGill-Tulane has to try and win and stay alive for the playoffs. Currently, they are out of the playoffs. They travel to Blount. Otherwise, this wouldn't be that big of a game. But McGill-Tulane at 3-3, Blount at 2-4. I have McGill-Tulane as a 5-point favorite in this one as well. But if Blount wins, McGill-Tulane, it's going to be tough for them to do anything.
I think Blount is the best 2-4 team in the state. I really do. I mean, I know that's funny. We always say that, but Blunt's a good football team. and McGill-Toolin's going to have to play their best.
Yeah, McGill-Tulin, like I said, about a 5-point favorite, but they got to win this one on the road to stay in. In Region 2, I mentioned Carver Montgomery and Pike Road. They are playing for the region title. If Pike Road loses, they'll fall to 4-2. Should still be second in that region, though, based on tiebreakers. Carver Montgomery, they are unbeaten in region play, 7-1 overall. I still got Pike Road as a touchdown favorite in this one, but they have to go to Carver. Not that it's that far to go from Pike Road over to Montgomery, but should be a good one here in Region 2.
And who'd you say you got?
I got Pike Road as a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, I do too. I like Pike Road in this game.
Pike Road, they have gone from, I believe, 3A the first 2 years to 5A the second 2 years, and now it's 6A. So obviously a growing area down there in the Montgomery region. And yeah, I like Pike Road in this game on the road as well. 6A Region 3, Homewood and Briarwood. We mentioned this. It's so wild that Homewood has already locked up the region title. Briarwood's already locked up not making the playoffs in this one. But I only have Homewood as a touchdown favorite because Briarwood loves to play these close games.
I got to go more than that. I think it's time Homewood flex their muscles now and show everybody in the state what they got. They'll trounce Briarwood Christian in this one.
I'm a homer, so I'd love to see it, but for my Homewood Patriots. But, yeah, it's just weird that this is not for a region title game because when I was in school, we played Briarwood every year, and this time, but it was for the region title. But Homewood already locked that one up. They're going to be the 1 seed, and they're going to play the bottom seed out of Region 4, which as of right now is McAdory. They host Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. Hillcrest at 6-0 in region play, 9-0 overall. They are unbeaten. I missed that when I was going through the unbeaten teams in 6A. McAdory, they're 5-3 overall, 4-2 in this region, and Hillcrest have about an 11-point favorite. I think it's more than that. They're good.
Okay, I'm going to go against you. I don't know why. I just think McAdory is due. They've been playing good the last part of the year. Hillcrest Tuscaloosa probably looking ahead too much. They think they got it sewed up. I just see McAdory coming in as a sleeper on this game.
Yeah, McAdory has a chance to move up if they win and Northridge loses this week, but we'll see what happens in that. I also skipped over this game in Region 3. I was talking about the Homewood matchup in the playoffs. It looks like Homewood McAdory, but Helena hosts Benjamin Russell, and this has gone from Helena being a solid second seed to potentially missing the playoffs. I mentioned it earlier. Helena, basically you win, you're second, you lose, you're in danger of being out of the playoffs.
I would have Helena all the way in this game if Briarwood had beat Benjamin Russell last week. The fact that Ben Russell won last week, to me, it's a coin toss game.
Yeah, I got Helena as a 5-point favorite, so not a big favorite there for Helena. All right, Gardendale 5-0 at Mountain Brook 5-0 in 6A Region 5. A game we've been waiting for there between those two, but I got to say I still like Mountain Brook by a bunch in this one.
Yeah, I love Gardendale's new attitude. The Rockets playing great ball this year, but no match for Mountain Brook.
Yeah, Mountain Brook, they've been solid all season long. No reason to think it's going to be different now. But Gardendale, team in the playoffs, can win a few games and make a little bit of a run. I'd love to watch Gardendale against one of their former Region 6 foes, like a Pinson Valley, Centerpoint, Oxford, Clay, those 4 teams that are going to make it right there. I'd love to watch them against them. I think they have a chance to beat almost any of those. Maybe not Clay Chalkville, but definitely the other ones. Speaking of that region, Oxford at Centerpoint. Oxford 3-2 in region play. Centerpoint 4-1. Centerpoint can get second with a win. It'll be a 3-way tie with a loss between those two in Pinson Valley.
I like Centerpoint. I like Centerpoint number 1 because they're at home. I like Centerpoint number 2 because of George Bates.
Yeah, George Bates doing a great job right there. 7-1 on the season, 4-1 in region play. I got him a 5-point favorite in this one. A lot of that has to do with home field advantage. I do think Centerpoint gets the win there over Oxford. All right, moving into Class 7A. 7A Region 1, Baker at Fairhope. Fairhope looking to lock up a top 2 spot with a win. Baker, they're out with a loss, but Baker still firmly in the playoff position, playing for everything here at Fairhope. I got Fairhope still, though, as a 2-touchdown favorite down there.
Yeah, go Fairhope. That's they'll win that one.
Biggest game down in that region, though, Foley. 4-1 in region play. They host Daphne. Daphne at 3-2 in region play. Only 3-5 overall. Foley with a win. They get the crown on top of their head. They are region champ officially if they get the win. Daphne, though, also playing for everything with that 3-2 record.
You got to flip a coin on this one. I tell you, it's not the two schools real close together. It's not a traveling issue or anything like that. I love the fact that Foley, they're playing it at Foley. I love the turf at Foley. I've talked about that several times. Foley's going to have everybody there. It's going to be a massive turnout. Daphne will travel extremely well. I don't know where they're going to put all those people, but it's a coin toss.
I would pick Foley in this game, but my the old algorithm there spit out Daphne, favored by a field goal in that one. So we'll see what happens in that one. Got Fairhope as a couple touchdown favorite. Daphne is a slight favorite, but I like Fairhope and Foley, the two home teams, to get the wins there. In Region 2, we mentioned Auburn falling to Central Phoenix City. That has made this region wild and fun to watch, but a pain to have to go and do all the bracketology on. Enterprise, they got a big win last week over Opelika. They are at Jeff Davis. I would never have put this game on there if it weren't for the fact that Enterprise is playing for a playoff spot now, and they have to beat Jeff Davis to stay alive, who's only one game behind them right now.
That's going to happen. Enterprise is going to take care of Jeff Davis.
Enterprise would move to 4-3 in region play, which is where Opelika is right now as they take on Dothan. If they win, they'll be at 5-3 and probably be solid for the playoffs. But if they lose, they'll be at 4-4 and in danger because Dothan will move ahead of them. The loser of this in danger of missing the playoffs. And a few weeks ago, I would have said, no, this would have been for like second place potentially.
Well, that's another one of these games, and we keep saying this on the coin flip. If you'll notice, even the games that, have a 1 or 2 point edge, it's still just 1 or 2 points. This is one of those games. You don't know how Dothan's going to play. I was higher on Dothan at the beginning of the year, but now I think they'll still go down to Opelika. I think Opelika will take care of business.
I got Opelika a 3-point favorite in this one, so just a field goal there on the road at Dothan. All right, big one, Auburn, now 5-1 in region play at Prattville, who's 4-2. They lost those 2 games early to Dothan and Smith Station, but they have been unstoppable since. Prattville, a win moves them into second. Auburn must win to stay top 2 right now, so they're actually playing for home field in this game. Prattville hosting Auburn. Bye-bye,
Prattville. I'm just telling you.
I was waiting for you to say,
ready.
no, Prattville's back. They're doing it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to say that this is a toss-up ball game, but Auburn is going to be ready. They're going to travel over to Prattville. Prattville now, their stadium, I got to tell you, they got new lights and stuff. It's a lot more intense atmosphere, but let me tell you, Keith Etheridge didn't get to where he is by not winning these kind of games. He's going to take care of Prattville.
Only Central Phoenix City controls their destiny right now, but only 2 teams control their destiny, and that's because they meet next week. That's Central Phoenix City and Prattville. Prattville can still win this region based on tiebreakers, so they already have 2 losses. If they beat Auburn, that'll put them at 2 losses, and then beat Central, that'll put Central at 2 losses, and they will have the head-to-head over everybody behind them because they've lost to 2 teams even further down. So
John,
it's wild to think Prattville.
If that happens, well, we need to go to Vegas. I'm telling you. Because we need to take Prattville with us.
Yeah, I was about to say, take Stacey Mills with us or somebody down there from Prattville. And, I have Auburn as a 12-point favorite in this one, though. But Prattville at home trying to make some craziness happen down there in Region 2. Before we move on to Region 3, a couple games in Region 4 to keep an eye on. Huntsville is at Austin. Sparkman is at Florence. Bob Jones, they're at 0-6 Albertville. James Clemens at 1-5 Grissom. If all 4 teams win, everybody's head's going to explode. Bob Jones and James Clemens, I expect to win. That's why I have Thompson and Hoover playing the 2 teams out of Madison. But Huntsville at Austin, Florence at Sparkman, any chance either one of those 2 win?
No.
Simple as that. Bob Jones and James Clemens, that means James Clemens will be the 4 seed. Bob Jones will be the 3 seed, should that happen. And so the winner of Thompson Hoover would play James Clemens there in the first round, should that happen. I have Austin as a 17-point favorite. I actually have Sparkman as a 2-point favorite over Florence, but we'll see what happens with that one. Sparkman, a big win last week over Huntsville.
Florence loves to claim that 4th spot in that region, but this year it's going to be a little different. I think Sparkman will take care of business.
So Sparkman will beat Florence.
I do. I believe Sparkman's going to beat Florence. I'm sorry. Did you ask me both of those?
Yeah.
No. I'm going with Sparkman. I think Sparkman's a good football team, and Florence has got them at home. I believe home game.
That's at Sparkman.
So it's at Sparkman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like Sparkman even better.
Sparkman, I got him as a favorite in this one, so that could cause a 3-way tiebreaker with Bob Jones and James Clemens potentially, depending on what happens.
That's why you earn the big bucks.
There's way too much going on with all this stuff. All right, moving into Region 3, as my iPad freezes up here. Oak Mountain at Spain Park, battle for basically last place here. Does Oak Mountain get their first region win, or does Spain Park put them in last place? I'm just curious. You got to finish somewhere.
I kind of like Spain Park, but you got to feel like Oak Mountain's due, and they need something positive to happen. to carry them into next year, I don't know, John. That's a coin toss.
I got Spain Park as a 1-point favorite, so it pretty much is a coin toss. Hewitt-Trussville hosting Chelsea. Hewitt already locked into third in Region 3. They can sit back and play whoever they want to. Got them as a 35-point favorite, 5 touchdowns, the biggest favorite on the board this week. But, Chelsea, yeah. Move on. All right, the 2 big games in Region 3 to decide playoff spots. Tuscaloosa County at Vestavia. County now at 3-3. Vestavia at 3-3. I have Vestavia as a 24-point favorite in this game. We've seen both teams in person at the 2 locations. Vestavia's hosting this one against Tuscaloosa County. Can County win this game?
All right, here's the deal. If the county that played last week against Thompson shows up, no. If the Tuscaloosa County that played Hoover the week before shows up, absolutely. I know it's a big spread on this game. I get it. But I also still know the atmosphere and the right adjective about Tuscaloosa County. Same thing at Vestavia, but Vestavia kind of is expecting it more. Tuscaloosa County may want it more. So you can throw 2 or 3 touchdowns out there, but I still think it's going to be a close game.
And I talked to people from Vestavia that have kind of, realized where they were last year, not doing that great under Coach Calhoun. Robert Evans comes and now it's like, hey, is Vestavia, how have they been doing this season? Every time I answer with, I think they're going to make the playoffs, if that means anything. And it's a region that's that tough behind Thompson, Hoover, and Hewitt. A lot of teams fighting County, Oak Mountain, Spain Park, teams that have been in the playoffs in the past. It's like, look, I think they're going to make the playoffs, and I do think they get the win over Tuscaloosa County. Like I said, I have it at 24 points. Winners in, losers out. Plain and simple, the winner of this game will be 4th seed, and they will have to travel to Austin. That is already decided that the winner of this game will travel to Austin. Hewitt-Trussville, by the way, they're going to travel to Florence, regardless of what happens. So that's the one matchup in Class 7A that's decided already. The other one that's going to decide a playoff spot, Hoover, 8-1 on the season, 6-0 in region play at Thompson, 7-2 on the season, 6-0 in region play. Winner wins 7A Region 3, loser is 2nd, and don't really know who either team would play yet. We'll see all that on Friday night, but this is the game we've had circled on our calendar.
So you can watch this game in a lot of different places, including listening to John and I call it on the WarriorNationNetwork.org. You can watch it there on the NFHS Network, or you can listen to it on the radio broadcast. So everybody's been talking. I don't know what the line would be on this game because basically it's going to be a close game either way. I think that Thompson's defense may be the key in this game to Thompson winning. I know Hoover has not been able to put up the kind of points they want to put up this year. I think Peter Woods, Fagans, I think Mitchell, I think Ivy, those 4 key players on defense for Thompson will be the difference in this game. I think Thompson comes out of the way with a win.
Hoover's had some quarterback injuries. They've had to move all the way down to the 3rd-string quarterback at a point. So, that's obviously been an issue for them. Haven't been able to air it out quite as much. Lamarion McCammon ran all over Tuscaloosa County a couple of weeks ago, but that's the one strength that Thompson has had this season is stopping the run, especially up the middle. So, you mentioned the names of those players. Peter Woods going to Clemson, Tony Mitchell going to Alabama. A lot of Division I talent on both squads. There always is for both of these teams. Plugging it all into the old formula, came up with Thompson minus 7.5. So that means you're not asking the question if Thompson wins, but whether Hoover can keep it within a touchdown throughout the game or not, or if Thompson can open it up a little bit. I've seen certain things, and I know it's easy for us because we're homers to say, well, Thompson's they're Thompson, Right. But I've seen, positives and negatives from the team. I mean, you look at that Clay Chalkville game, it was 17-14. They had to stop Clay Chalkville on the goal line to win that one. Hewitt-Trussville, they had to stop a 2-point conversion to keep that one from going into overtime, 14-12. Hoover, they played Vestavia 20-14. It was a 6-point game. Thompson beat them the week before by 3 touchdowns. There's a lot of comparisons you can do. But this is the kind of game that I throw all that out the window. The biggest reason I have Thompson as just over a touchdown favorite is at Thompson as opposed to being at Hoover like it was last year.
This is why Mark Freeman goes back to the first of the season. He says, we play in Buford and we're playing Lipscomb, because that's the 2 teams that come comparably, close to Hoover. And so, when they lost those 2 games, everybody's saying, oh, Thompson's not what they used to be. But they worked on a lot of stuff. This is where you draw from that knowledge. This is how you beat a Hoover.
Yeah, and Hoover, they start off with Auburn, so a pretty good opponent to start with there. Then they beat Bartlett out of Tennessee 56-7 in their rebound game against Tennessee, but Bartlett nowhere near Lipscomb Academy.
That's right.
Yeah, I think they were 6-4 last year. I'm not sure what they're doing so far this year, but look, it's Thompson, it's Hoover. It's the game we've had circled, like I said. I mean, we all look forward to Hewitt-Trussville. That's usually a good game. Clay-Chalville especially this year in non-region play. 3 really good games against, really 3 national teams. I'd include Clay-Chalville as a pretty good team nationally as well. But, yeah, Hoover at Thompson, like Jerry said, you can hear us call the game. Watch it on the NFHS network. Everybody always asks me, hey, how do I watch? This is the one game I want to pay attention to. That's how you can do it. The NFHS network's a great deal. We obviously use it all the time. We're biased because we call plenty of games on it, but you can watch pretty much most of these games that we've mentioned on the NFHS network.
Yeah, and John and I do a pregame show called a Tailgate Show, too. If you'd like to watch that, where we pick some teams, that'll be on Thompson Athletics Facebook page. So you go on Facebook, go to Thompson Athletics. That show starts at 6 o'clock promptly, and that's a good tailgate show if you'd like to see some atmosphere.
Yeah, we'll have Rick and Greg Burgess there with us as our guest pickers, and Jerry and I will pick all the games that we've pretty much already picked here, but, we'll give a little more insight into it and preview more about this great Hoover-Thompson matchup coming up on Friday. All right. Most of the brackets will be set. We'll have most of this stuff set for you next week when we come back. We may be in costume or not. Who knows? We'll figure that out.
I'm not going to be.
Between now and then. But, should be a fun week ahead in Week 9 of the high school football season. For Jerry Young, I'm John Lunceford. This has been Next Round Preps.